to those of you we haven't met yet. We're glad that you came out. This is our first week of being in this facility for presentations. It's kind of been a dream of ours that we could have a center where we could invite our members in for education and our staff. And so it's finally a reality after several years of work. So we're pretty excited to be here. My name is Mary Hansen, and it's been my pleasure to be your CEO for 21 years here at Male Employees Credit Union. And we have quite a week of educational seminars. I don't know if you had a chance to look on our website, but there's also a list out front. We'd love for you to come back and join us for other sessions. And also on Friday, we will have kind of like the male benefit fairs, where we'll have in this building a room with tables set aside with some of our product experts. So if you want to learn about, how to prepare for that trip to the car dealership, or if you're purchasing a different home or your first home for that matter, we'll have people available to assist. We'll also have our investment and insurance specialists available. They've been doing seminars this week too, as well as we'll have a job fair for people that are looking for jobs. So looking forward to that. That's this Friday from 11 to 4, and it'll be in this area here. Today, though, our presentation's on scams and fraud prevention, and we certainly have members every week, if not daily, that are encountering fraudsters and are unfortunately sometimes putting their life savings at potential risk through interacting with the fraudsters. Some of my team here today are people that assist members that find themselves in that situation. It is very common, and we're seeing a lot of it. So we are excited that we have the opportunity to have an education resource today to talk with us. So our speakers today are from the Rochester Police Department. Those of you that have been up here talking, you realize that. Starting us off, though, will be Officer Marsolik, and he's been with the department for 14 years.
Yep.
He's currently on the department's Community Action Team, which they call CAT.
Yep.
A group of proactive problem solvers that utilize community partnerships and resources to help make our city a safer place to work and play. Officer Marsolik has received 5 Commendation Awards, 3 Life Savings Awards, and was Police Athletic Activity League Officer of the Year in 2020. So I'm staying really close to this guy, because if something happens to me, this is who I want by me, right? Yes, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Joining us also a little bit later will be Amanda Grayson, who is with the Rochester Police Department in the Crime Prevention and Communications Coordinator. And she's a certified crime prevention specialist with the Minnesota Crime Prevention Association. She manages the police department's social media accounts and works with local media to help ensure our community gets important public safety information. So please join me in welcoming Officer Marsolik, and Amanda will be coming here shortly. Thank you.
I think I need that one too.
You need that?
Well, I probably don't. Well, can you guys hear me all right? Or?
Yep.
All right, perfect. So, like you said, I'm Officer Marsolik. I'll just give you a quick little background on me. So, I had a midlife career change. I went back to school when I was 35 for law enforcement, something I always wanted to do. Before that, I was in the military. I served in the Gulf War in the 90s, and then I worked in the corrugated box business. So, I basically made corrugated boxes for about 15 years. Me, a buddy of mine, and another lady, we went out and opened our own corrugated box business. We ended up running out of money about 3.5, 4 years into it. Just couldn't get past that hump. So like I said, this was something I always wanted to do. So at age 35, I went back to school. I was hired here when I was 38, and I'm retiring January 11th. So pretty excited for that. So it's been a great career. I love my current position that I'm in. We do a lot of the community engagement for those of you that get out to like Safe City Nights. We do the Safe City Nights events. We work with the kids. We have the Cops and Kids Community Bike Program to try to interact with some of the underprivileged youth. We're able to get them bikes from our evidence. So we do a lot of things with the community to try to influence some change or make some change in there for the better for everybody. So with that being said, Amanda's not here. She's the one that with all the knowledge. So I'm gonna touch base on one little thing just to relate to this fraud and scam thing, and then we're gonna go into a little pop quiz about the city of Rochester and the Rochester Police Department. So about a month ago, recently we hired 10 officers. A few of those officers were police explorers, and some were outside agencies, some were people that just finished the skills program here in Rochester. So one of our police explorers, a family member, I can't remember if it was mom or dad or grandma and grandpa, they got a call in the wee hours of the night, and they said that their daughter was in jail, her granddaughter was in jail. And well, $14,000 later, their daughter or granddaughter, like I said, I can't remember which it was, never got out of jail because she was never in jail. So, I mean, it happens. It happens close to home. It happened to one of our own even. So, they're family members anyway. So just keep that in mind. I mean, we hear a lot of it in the city of Rochester. I'm sure you've seen in the news. It's constantly going on. I mean, there's predators all over. I mean, and most of these online predators or phone predators aren't even in this country. Most of them are from overseas. But I mean, that doesn't say there isn't any in the United States or America or anything like that, because there is. But the majority that you see and hear are from overseas. So, with that being said, we're going to do a pop quiz. So this is just a little pop quiz kind of that we put together just to kind of give you a little background on the city of Rochester, the police department, and some of the things that we're seeing out there. So first of all, who knows what the most recent population? Well, this is the 2020 census. How big is Rochester?
125,000. No,
Yeah.
121,325.
And I think you're right. So this is a 2020 census, so we're a little bit behind. So this says 119,862. So you're right in there. So with that being said, so on average we have 809 residents per officer that we have employed, okay? So the city of Rochester employs, I think it's 154 licensed police officers. Okay, sounds like a lot of officers out on the street, right? So on any given day, what do you think on a day shift like now? So from 6 to 6, how many officers do you think are out there working?
40.
Okay, so recently we made a schedule change. Before that schedule change, our minimum on day shift was 9 officers. So at any given point in time, there could be 9 officers out on the street of Rochester protecting the whole city. So it just it's an eye opener, isn't it? I mean, because most people think that there's 20, 30 cops out there. That's not the case, okay? So one of the lieutenants did a little bit of research and found that our highest call volume usually starts around 10, 11 o'clock and goes to like 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon. I mean, and then it kind of picks up in the evening a little bit. So what they did, they brought additional officers in at 10, 2, and 4. So we have kind of that overnight coverage, and we have more officers on the street during the busy times, and less officers on the street from, like 6 to 10. So there could be like 6, 7 officers on the street from 6 to 10 in the morning. So you hear 154 officers, and that's what you're thinking. You're thinking holy cow, we're going to have a lot of cops out there. But you got to remember, so those 154 officers, they're in our training division, they're in our criminal interdiction unit, which does a lot of our narcotic sales, and our trafficking stuff, and then investigations. So, and then you have all the admin staff. So you got a captain, you got 4 captains, 3 sergeants per shift, and then lieutenants in there, and then, so there's a lot of, and even us. So we're not, on the community action team, we don't take calls on the street. We're not assigned to the radio, so we have different responsibilities throughout the department. So that eliminates us from being on the street. So we're not counted in the 9 or that used to be out there. Now by 2 o'clock you're going to see 14 officers on the street, somewhere right in there. So it's not a huge increase, but it's better than it was. All right.
Question. So how many squad cars do you have then?
Oh, there's got to be there's got to be 20 some, I suppose. I mean, you know, there's 3 or 4 sergeant vehicles. I think there's like 4 sergeant vehicles, which are the expeditions you see driving around. So except me, so the community action team, we have 2 expeditions because we troll the trailers around. But other than that, if you see an expedition, that's a sergeant's vehicle. So the officers usually drive the little SUVs. We have 8 K-9 officers currently. So we have 8 K-9s out there. 2 of which are just single-purpose dogs. They sniff for explosives. And then the rest are multi-purpose, which is narcotics and apprehension. So, good questions. Any more questions on that?
I was wondering if the ratio of policemen to population is better or worse in other communities than ours.
That's a good question because I have that answer on here. So, average of similar-sized agencies of benchmark cities, their average is about 735 residents per officer. So we're spread a little bit thinner than them per se. So we're at 809 residents per officer versus 735. So I mean we're close, but if you compare cities like Duluth and stuff like that, they actually have more officers than we do, and we're a smaller city. So I mean, and there's stuff to be said about that, about you know why that is there crime rate higher up there and stuff like that too. So it all depends. I mean, this is a great city to work for. I mean, we have tons of support. You guys love us. The majority of the city loves us. I mean, it's one of the best cities to work for. So let's see. So Benchmark City is a coalition of 30 mid-sized police departments committed to sharing data, policy, and best practices. So out of those 30 mid-sized cities, the average was 735. So we're at 809. All right, so we answered how many police officers are here in Rochester. We talked about the shift strength. So kind of a common question is, when should we call 911? Does anybody know the non-emergency number?
Yeah, it's in my phone. Yeah, it's on my phone.
All right. So the difference to when you would call 911, I mean, if, like, well, I was talking to this gentleman up here, so if his gnome was stolen overnight, and that's something you wouldn't want to call 911 for, just the non-emergency number. He had a question about the difference between community service officers and officers. So in that number, the community service officers are not counted, okay? When we talk about police officers, we're talking about licensed peace officers, okay? We usually have 2 to 3 community service officers working every day, and they would respond to a call like that. So any non-active call that doesn't have a known suspect. So like somebody egged your house overnight, you had property damage of some sort. They can also write crash reports in a parking lot because it's not public property, it's private property. So they can write, because we can't, for all of you that didn't know, the only citation that we can write in a parking lot is no proof of insurance. So if you think that guy ran the stop sign in the parking lot, that's private property. So I mean, we can't write a citation for stop sign violation in a private property parking lot. So they do funeral escorts for us. They do a lot of stuff for us. They still have to write reports on certain things, but they carry a lot of weight. So it's great to have them on board. So like on.
Could you give us that number that we're supposed to call?
Oh sure. I'm sorry. It's 507. Wait, people are getting some pens out here. 507-328-6800. So that's a non-emergency. Any not in progress call, I mean, obviously, if you see somebody walking around your house and he's not supposed to be there, you call 911. I mean, he's suspicious. He's not supposed to be there. We're going to respond. Did you get the number, man?
You did it again?
Yep, 507-328-6800. Yep. So yeah, so burglary in progress, we would call. You know, I mean, report of suspicious activity, I would call on too. I mean, if there's somebody out there, you don't know if he's trying to gain access or whatever. You know, if he's just walking down the street, that's a different thing. I mean, where he's not actively coming up to your house or anything like that. I mean, I would just call it a non-emergency. I mean, people look suspicious. I mean, but it's not illegal to walk down the sidewalk either. You got to remember that at 2 o'clock in the morning. So, I mean, And we get calls like that. I mean, so in that instance, I mean, if he's walking down the sidewalk and he's not doing anything, I mean, we can go make contact with him, but he doesn't have to potentially really ID himself because he's not committing any crime, right? So, I mean, there's that gray area a little bit you got to walk.
So is it the same dispatchers that take the 911 calls and the non-emergency calls?
So we have I think there's 5 to 6 dispatchers, depending on like the weekday or what night, weekends versus weekdays. So one dispatcher, which we call Channel 1. So Channel 1 dispatches all the calls to all the officers in the city of Rochester and all the sheriff's office. They dispatch all the calls, okay? Channel 2, we have a Channel 2 dispatcher. So if I'm out of my squad car, not by my computer, and I want to run your name. So I want to see if you have a warrant or something like that. I could call on my radio, call the Channel 2, and they'll give me that information, okay? Then we have a fire and ambulance dispatcher. And then we have a phone person, which answers the phone. And then there's a supervisor, and then sometimes there's like a floater in there that'll fill in wherever they need to be. So all of them can answer the phones. If there's a 911 ringing, I mean, they're going to grab that. Whoever can grab it out of that group. I mean, fire dispatch will grab it or whatever. I mean, anybody will grab that 911 because it's important. I mean, that's why we get upset when people call in for non-emergency calls. I mean, because that's priority. You know what I mean? So no matter what, if 911 rings, we're answering that phone. So versus if it's a non-emergency, I mean, 328, we're probably going to let it ring if when a 911 comes in. So all right. Let's see here. So we're going to talk, so everybody knows about catalytic converters, right? So we just had some, well, I'm sure it's more than this total now because we just had, I think there's 4 or 6 reported in the news this morning that were stolen over this last weekend. I think it was got a value of like over $10,000 or something like that, 10 or 12,000. So as of last year, so this is approximately how many catalytic converter thefts were reported in Rochester last year. So that last year it was 195 catalytic converters. So that's a huge amount. I know legislation is supposedly working on changing things, so having a tracking method where that catalytic converter came from, because before it was so easy just to take catalytic converters in and just give it to the recycler and they got paid for it. I mean, it'd be kind of odd when you come in with 10 catalytic converters and, I mean, but
Did they start painting part of it and putting a spot of paint on it?
Yep, so RPD did a little proactive thing where I think we ended up painting over 200 and some vehicles, something like that. We did it at 3 locations, one at Rochester Ford, one down south at Jiffy Lube, and then one up north at Valvoline. So 3 parts of town. We paint a couple hundred vehicles. I know, what's the name of that's still doing it?
The sheriff's office is doing a program where you can pick up a kit. You can do it, you can go to the law enforcement center, so downtown, the government center on the 2nd floor. If you go to the sheriff's office window, you can get a small kit that has a label that you affix. It's like you stick it to your catalytic converter, and then when you drive, it heats up and it etches a number in. You have to register the kit in your vehicle and do a few steps online. But that program is in place, and they ran out of kits right away, but I've heard they have another supply. So there is.
And there used to be specific vehicles, but now it's open to all vehicles.
That's my understanding, yep.
So didn't they go to the recyclers and talk to them and have them call in when they bring some in?
I'm sure they did. I wasn't involved in a lot of those investigations and stuff like that.
Yeah, I heard like that.
I'm sure they did. I'm sure, law enforcement did as much as they can. But I mean, for the majority of us, we know it's obvious that most of those are stolen. But but it's again. So then you go back. How do you prove that this person stole that? Besides being in possession of stolen property. So I'm just going to run through these vehicles. These are the initial vehicles that they had listed, where you could get a kit. But it sounds like that has since went away. That it's probably open to most vehicles, but if you have one of these, you for sure can get one. So a Chevrolet Express, Ford Econoline, F-250 Ford, Honda Accord, Honda CR-V, Honda Element, Honda Odyssey, a Hyundai Santa Fe, Hyundai Tucson, a Kia Sportage, Mitsubishi Eclipse, Mitsubishi Lancer, Mitsubishi Outlander, Toyota Prius, and Toyota Tundra. So that was the initial push of Any of those vehicles, if you owned one of those, you could get a kit, but we think it since has opened up to all vehicles. All right. So just to so what time do you think curfew is for teenagers in this city? Say a 16-year-old.
10?
Midnight. Yep. So under 16, I believe it's, 10:30? Yeah, so under 16 is 10:30. And then obviously 16 to 17 is midnight, 18 is whenever. So we do in the summertime when the kids are out of school, we do write a lot of curfew violations for juveniles being out, especially if they're doing up to no good, which they usually are if they're out after midnight. So here's a good question. So how many traffic stops do you think officers made last year? Just traffic stops.
Probably about 5,000-6,000. You just see them out there all the time.
What do you think? You're
It's for the year.
higher or lower?
It's gotta be higher than 5,000-6,000.
So you got to remember, so we went through 2 years of COVID, right? So which was tough. So we still did a lot of traffic, but we did not do as much. So prior COVID years, so you're right, we're at 5,300 traffic stops last year, okay? Prior years, we had some years about 9,000 traffic stops. We had some years around 7,000 to 8,000 traffic stops. Now look, that's for the whole department, but that's a pretty active department. When I first got hired here, I'll just give you a little background on me. I love traffic. So my first year, I wrote 450 some citations. I was a hard ass. So, but yeah, so it just depends. There's officers that enjoy traffic and there's officers that don't like to do it as much. I thought of it as a way as being I joined this field at a later age. I had no problem talking to people. I could talk to anybody. I was in sales when I was in my business and stuff, so I can talk to anybody. So you get out of your car, you interact with these individuals. You never know what else you're going to find. It opens the door to tons of other things. So that's what I try to tell these new officers too, is get out there. You don't have to write a ticket. We have the discretion not to write a ticket. It's interact with these guys, You're going to learn something about yourself. You're going to learn something about the job. And it's a great way to grow as an officer. So yeah. So our numbers are down, but I'm sure they'll be back up. I know we've been doing a lot of traffic stops. I'm sure you've seen on the news. If you follow Facebook, that one Facebook post, would we have 10 guns, something like that came off the street? So we've been getting, we have some really proactive officers that are able to expand the scope of the search. Maybe there's narcotics, maybe there's paraphernalia in plain view, so we can, at that point, if it's plain view, we can get into the car and search the car. So they're coming up with guns and all kinds of different things. So I think it was a significant number of handguns that we got off the street since the beginning of the year. So Night to Unite. I'm just going to touch base on this. So everybody knows what National Night Out is, right? So last year, we used to be part of National Night Out, but the fees and everything that come with National Night Out kind of got rather expensive. So Minnesota has their own name, which is called a Night to Unite. It happens on the exact same day as National Night Out, first Tuesday of August, okay? It was a Night to Unite last year as well. That was the first year of it. We called it Night to Unite. So if you see that coming in next August, because it is way past August now, look for it. Hopefully you guys can have some neighborhood parties. There's a sign up. If you happen to have a party in your neighborhood, there's a sign up out on our City of Rochester page.
It's not up quite yet.
No, I know. I'm just saying, but when it gets closer next year.
It'll be an online registration. If you have a neighborhood gathering, you can register your gathering, and we will visit as many neighborhoods as we can.
I think we had, maybe, what do we have, like 60?
We had close to 70, and I think
Yeah.
Homestead County had another 40 or so celebrations. So,
And I think we attended every party in the city of Rochester. So there's officers that come in off duty to come and do this too, because it's engagement for us. It's your time to talk to us and ask those questions, and like Safe City Nights. Don't forget about Safe City Nights. If you haven't been one, You missed out on me putting it on because they're all done now, but I put it on for that. So we've done Safe City Nights since 2019. We didn't do it in 2020 because of COVID. We did 4 in 2021 and we did 6 this year. So those of you that don't know about Safe City Nights, it's a community engagement event put on by the police department. We served, about 5,000, between 5,000 and 6,000 people last year. There's law enforcement stuff, there's Mayo Clinic ambulances there, fire department, free food put on by the Canadian Honker. What else? There's all kinds of little activities to do. I mean, Jefferson, we had the State Patrol helicopter landed. You're able to come and see the State Patrol helicopter. So it's super cool. It's a 2-hour event, goes from 6 to 8. So if you follow us on Facebook, it'll be on there probably come May, first part of May, somewhere in there. All right, this is leading into Amanda. So how much money was lost to fraud last year in the U.S.?
I bet it's over $1 billion.
Any other guesses? $5.8 billion, according to the Federal Trade Commission. 2.8 million people filed fraud reports in 2021. The most commonly reported category was imposter scams. So, with that being said, thanks for your participation in the pop quiz. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll be standing by helping with Amanda here, but this is Amanda Grayson, our crime prevention specialist.
Well, thank you. Officer Marsalik is a subject matter expert on fraud and scams as well. So he can jump in and add information. But
Do you want the mic or?
no, I think, do you need the mic?
I'm going to take this one off of you.
Sure.
And then this is for the live stream, Amanda. So, oh, sorry, I don't want
I got you. You could have grabbed it too.
to. I don't want to.
I wouldn't have.
Yeah. And if you, you're okay. That just clips onto this, and then if you just want to put this in your pocket.
Absolutely.
There's also a slide advancer there.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Well, we'll get started. Like Officer Marsalik said, he left you with some pretty staggering numbers. $5.8 billion lost to fraud in 2021. More than, nearly 3 million people filed fraud reports, and that's a 70% increase from 2020. So imposter scams are the biggest growing category. And imposter scams are when people pretend to be someone that you trust, maybe a family member or a government agency, and they try to convince you to send them money or share personal information like bank account numbers or social security number, and they can try to reach you in a variety of ways. One, just traditional phone calls, maybe a text message, or maybe through email messages or pop-ups on your computer. So they are finding all kinds of ways to reach you, and the scammers pretend to be agencies that we trust, perhaps Medicare, Social Security, law enforcement, maybe the utility company. So we always have to have our guard up because who we're dealing with might not be what we think. So let's talk about some of the different types of scams, and one is the grandparent scam. How many of you are familiar with this? Yes, lots of you. And it's usually you'll get a phone call from someone that sounds frantic and scared, pretending to be your grandchild, and they may say there's an accident, they're in jail, they're in the hospital, they need your help right away, and they'll maybe try to pass the phone. They'll say, I can't talk grandma, I can't talk grandpa, but here's the attorney or someone, an authority of some kind. And they'll try to get you to act quickly. I think that's one common thing with a lot of these scammers. They really try to prey on your emotions and get you to stay on the phone and to act quickly. They'll maybe talk really rapidly and sound frantic and stressed, which is, it makes it easier for us to become frantic and stressed when we're dealing with someone like that. So it's really easy to kind of see how some of these situations can kind of spiral. But one thing we encourage you to do is to maybe ask a question that only your grandchild would know. Like, Timmy, what was your dog's name growing up, or a question if you have some suspicions, ask a question that your grandchild would know, but the scammer would not. Or go ahead and reach out to another family member. A lot of times the grandchild, the alleged grandchild, will say, don't tell mom, I don't want mom and dad to know about this. But that's another red flag, and we encourage you to contact a family member and say, have you talked to so-and-so today? And just do your homework and do your best not to get wrapped up in their crazy, frantic story. We just always say pause, hit the pause button, and really think this through, because it's so easy to get kind of caught up in the emotion of the phone call. Romance scams are another popular or common scam going on. I was just in a conversation with a woman a couple weeks ago who had been communicating with someone she met online, and eventually the person insisted she send him money. And that's how a lot of these scams unfold. A criminal creates a fake profile or assumes a real person's identity to try to gain your trust. They'll, act like a close friend, or they might allude to romance, and eventually they'll manipulate and try to steal from you. And they're really good at seeming genuine, caring, and believable. This woman that I was communicating with, she had done, her Googling, and this person that she was communicating with, there was a person by that name who really did work in the military and had some legitimate points. But when the conversation turns to money and turns to that request, that's your red flag right there. And she, after talking for a little while, the light bulb went off, and she realized, yeah, this isn't who I think it is. This is indeed someone trying to manipulate me. And this person in that case was even threatening her and saying, I'm going to come to your house. I know where you live. And so they really prey on your fears, and we just want to remind you to look out for your loved ones too, because this may not be happening to you, but it might be happening to someone you know, a friend, and sometimes it takes talking about a situation out loud for it to resonate with the person it's impacting. So we feel like conversation is maybe one of the best ways to deter this kind of scam.
Amanda, I know one of the things that amazes me is a lot of times they have never met them in person, but they're willing to send them thousands of their life savings. And that's what's so amazing to me, that they're that good that they convince people, even though they've never met them in person.
You're right. And did you have something to add?
Well, just a couple little things. So if any of you ever watch Dr. Phil, and he has these individuals on there a lot with the romance scams. I mean, these people are selling their houses. I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars that they're giving to these people, like she said. They believe that it's the real person. I've talked to them, they said, and and Dr. Phil goes and finds this person overseas, and it doesn't even match, and then they actually find a picture of the person and bring him on the show, I just wanted to also hit on, so if any of you guys do have like Netflix or anything, there's a couple of undercover series on there to watch. There's a couple undercover reporters that go overseas and actually find some of these romance scam people and actually interview them and stuff like that. It's pretty creepy. I mean, it really is. I mean, but it's interesting too. It's how they talk about how they get it, under your skin and get you, involved and to build those feelings and all that stuff like that, and what their main goal is. And it's not just one person. I mean, it's a group of individuals working together. So, if any of you guys do have Netflix, it's worth a watch.
So how much research do they do on the victims? Do they, if we got a call about grandkids, well, we don't have grandkids, so, do they research the people, their targets?
Sometimes
yes.
they do.
Yes.
And we've had calls like that kind of match that grandparent scam call where they knew different family members, and
From Facebook?
well, or from some of the when you do just Google searches, you can see relationship, family members, and so they were dropping some names that made the person feel like, oh, this is a legitimate call. So sometimes they really do their homework, and you need to have your guard up. And
So I'll just give you a quick incident how easy it is to search. So over the summer, there was this female that thought I was good looking, and she Googled me and found my wife's phone number. Texted my wife and said, hey, is this Officer Marsali? So it doesn't take long for people to figure out how to get a hold of people, because, I mean, where there's a will, there's a way. Because I ended up calling this, because my wife's like, who is this person? They're asking if it's you. I'm like, I have no idea. So I called her back, and she's like, hey, this is such and such. I met you. I'm like, yeah. It's very easy to find a lot of information about people. I mean, you'd be surprised if you Google your name. I mean, you may not be the only one with your name. I mean, it's surprising how many people out there have the same name. You know, it's unreal, but a lot of information can come up about you. I mean, your addresses, you know, your phone numbers, and like Amanda said, family members and stuff like that. So there's a lot of information out there. So try to keep that as much as you can under wraps. You know, and I wish I had, there's a couple websites where you can remove a lot of your personal information from a lot of these directories and stuff like that. You go in there and put your name in there, and you want your public information removed. So they can't track you down as well. You had a question back there, statement.
I was just going to comment that you were mentioning Netflix also has a very cinematic presentation of the Tinder swindler.
Oh, sure,
About
yes.
romance scams. It's very entertaining, but also really sheds light on how deep these connections they build with their victims can go.
Yep. I started watching that. I haven't finished that one. I started watching that
Good.
one.
Because to me, that just seems a lot of investment in time and money to.
But that's all they have. I mean, they're not working. I mean, that is their job. They're preying on people. I mean, if it takes them, a month to get, a couple $1,000, but when you figure you're living, in poverty, I mean, $1,000 to them is huge money compared to, the United States. I mean, so, I think to them they're getting rewarded, but I mean, you look at some of these people, I mean, it's 10,000, it's 15,000, it's just not 500,000 bucks. I mean, it's big bucks, so, all right.
No, our next scams are phishing scams, and chances are you have been, you've received an email or maybe a text message from an organization with a quick story trying to trick you into clicking on a link or opening an attachment. After Prime Days, Amazon Prime, if you've did any shopping for Prime Days over the summer with Amazon, coincidentally, scammers had this timed perfectly. So shortly after this big Amazon sale, a lot of people were getting messages claiming to be from Amazon saying, oh, your account's been suspended, something went wrong with your order. And they were so savvy to time these messages with a legitimate sale going on. And so the message appeared to be coming from Amazon, but it wasn't, and they wanted you to click on a link and provide some personal information. And that's how these phishing scams work. You might get a message from a company you deal with regularly, an organization, a bank, telling you that there's suspicious activity or login attempts, there's something wrong with your payment information. I got one of those from PayPal saying they suspended my PayPal account, and I don't even have a PayPal account. And you need to confirm some personal or financial information. So once you click that link, that's their way of hooking you in, and then from there, you will be requested to provide additional information, and which can lead to becoming a victim of fraud.
And you'll see this, I mean, for those that are on the web or on your laptop or even on your phone or anything like that, and have an email account, I get probably 15, 20 of these every day, because everybody shares your email address out there. Once your email's out there, it's shared with everybody, and I sometimes got to stop and think, okay, did I do that, or is that, but 9 times out of 10, it's just garbage, it's like delete, delete, delete. Mm-hmm. So, and I want to touch base on another thing too. So Facebook, Facebook's another, whoever has Facebook, if you do, when somebody gets hacked, one of your friends or something like that, they'll send you a message, or usually, you'll get a message, oh, hey, did you hear about such and such passed away, or something like that. Yeah. Again, they prey on your emotions, don't get sucked into that. I did one time because I'm like, oh, click, and then, well, my Facebook account was hacked then, you know, so then, I mean, then all your information's out there. So just think before you start hitting buttons, okay? Step back. If you're in doubt, call your, you know, your financial institution, or, you know, if it's something with your hospital records or hospital bill or whatever, I mean, call Mayo or whatever you need to do. Don't get sucked into that. I mean, whatever's online can wait another day or 2 days or whatever. They're not going to come after you that quick and track you down. So just step back. You know, if it's involving family members, call your family members. Like, you know, what Amanda was talking about with the imposter scams. You know, reach out to them and, hey, you know, just hang up or whatever. But don't get sucked into those. We, as Rochester PD, and I'm sure Mayo does too as well, we get every once in a while, our IT department will send out a phishing scam, you know. Hey, you forgot to pay your invoice. I do quite a bit of purchasing in my position, so they'll say, Officer Marsalek, you need to pay this invoice, you know. Click here to see it or blah, 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 you know. And I'm like, well, it doesn't work that way. So, you know, you hit phishing and then, oh, great job, you know.
There's a little test for you, and you passed.
Yeah, so I mean, it's things like that. I mean, you just slow down and think about it, and like Amanda said, I mean, yeah, PayPal, you know, even like their Amazon logos, I mean, it's usually their logo isn't the same, and it's not even close to the Amazon logo, you know. It's just some little squiggly mark. And if you look at like the email where it came from, it's like a bunch of mumbo jumbo in there. That's, I mean, doesn't make any sense either, so.
So a few months ago, I got an urgent text message saying that I forgot to pay my Xcel Energy bill and that my account was going to be closed. And I did, even though I do this for a living, I still had a moment where I was like, oh no, did I forget something? And you do doubt yourself, and that's what these scammers are hoping happens. And what we recommend you do in situations where you do receive a message from Amazon, or maybe it's your Netflix account or your utility company, is instead of clicking on the link that they send you in the email or the text message, check with your legitimate account and see if there's really, go into your Amazon account and see, is there anything weird going on? Instead of clicking on these links, if you have any sort of suspicion, don't.
Yeah, because all your purchases are going to show up on there, what you purchased or recently bought or whatever. So just slow down and just kind of think about it just for a second, and then you guys will be fine.
Next one, pop-up computer scams, and this has happened here in our area a lot, where you're doing your thing on your computer and you might get a pop-up box that resembles what you see on the screen here, and it looks like it's from Microsoft or Amazon, telling you that your computer has been infected with a virus, and click here to fix the problem or to talk to a live agent who can assist you. And what that does, if you click on that link, it puts you in touch with a scammer who's going to likely request to gain control of your computer. And once they do that, they're able to look at account information or do whatever information you have saved on your computer. They're able to locate and gain access to your accounts that way. So some things to keep in mind if you get that screen of death or scary box that pops up. The best thing you can do to avoid that is to use antivirus and malware protection, and that's usually something most people have on their computer. A lot of times it's a free thing that you can even utilize through your internet provider. Otherwise, there are different subscription plans that you can purchase. Keep your firewalls on, do update your software when prompted, and go ahead and turn your computer off. If you're not going to use it for a period of time, shut it down. And if you do see that box, don't click on it. Resist the temptation and don't click on it. Don't ever allow anyone control of your computer, because like I said, then they can start going around and looking at your files and your accounts. Do not share passwords. Some of this seems like basic information, but it's worth repeating, because when you receive a pop-up or a text message or a scammer is trying to reach you, we just don't think as clearly. So that's why I'm hammering it home. Don't give out any credit card or bank account numbers. And so just to kind of reiterate some of the key points, and I didn't really talk about this, but in bold print at the top here, I say if a caller tells you to wire them money or make a payment with gift cards, it's a scam. So often people are going out and purchasing $500, $1,000, $1,500 worth of gift cards because they got a call from someone saying they need to send them payment, or maybe to claim a prize, you need to make a payment with gift cards first, things like that. But anytime someone requests payment via a gift card, it's likely a scam.
We just had one recently, I think, come through on the gift card one, and what she said, so I think this person was gonna win $10,000 or something like that, and she needed $1,500 in gift cards to get her 10,000, so.
So they'll instruct you to go and buy these gift cards, scratch off the codes, and a lot of times the scammer will keep you on the phone with them. So they expect, they want you in your car driving with your mobile phone and then providing. They really try to keep you on the line with them, which is just another red flag. If they don't want you to hang up and they express this urgency.
Yeah, whatever you do, don't ever pay with gift cards for anything. I mean, over the phone or anything like that. So, I mean, I would say 100% of the time it's gonna be some type of scam.
Sounds simple, but if you don't recognize a phone number, you don't have to answer it. I think sometimes we're just programmed to think, oh, my phone's ringing, I have to answer it. But if you have caller ID and you don't recognize the number, you don't have to answer it. And in that way, you can eliminate a lot of the stress that can come along with a potential scammer.
So in these numbers, a lot of times they'll be generated with, they're just computer generated numbers with our area code. They're coming from, I mean, they could be calling from overseas with a 507 number. So it doesn't, I mean, you think, oh, it's a local number, I'll pick that up, but it's really not. So, I mean, if you don't know it and you truly don't know it, yeah. I mean, I know my phone now, my cell phone will give me alerts, potential spam, and so I think they've gotten better. The cell phone company's gotten better about recognizing some of this stuff too. So,
and nearly all legitimate government communication from Social Security, for example, they're not going to be texting you. Those messages are going to come in the mail, the U.S. mail.
Well, they're just on a computer, our Social Security, they want that number, man, every time you open that computer, there's a bunch of them on there. You're gonna get a big $1,500 raise. Yeah, I mean, you see them every day.
Yeah.
Just,
it's annoying. Yeah,
and also, wish they quit sending me, they're trying to sell me their insurance. I mean, for my car.
yeah, and I mean, if you scroll down in there, a lot of those you can unsubscribe from if you look in there and try to, but the sad thing is that, I mean, your email's out there for so many times and it just gets sold and sold and sold, and thousands of people have your email.
depending on the type of email account that you have too, you should be able to, there should be an option to click as junk mail or spam, and then it'll be flagged, and hopefully that'll help minimize the problem, and you won't get.
A few of them on there.
But these emails, it seems like they're, even if you want to click to stop the emails, it's so easy. They make it so easy for you to do the wrong thing and click on something to attract their attention further. So they're so good at preying upon people. Some people, we need to remind you that police, Officer Marsalic is never going to demand payment to waive charges or to stop an investigation, or police and law enforcement, we're not going to threaten you and demand payment. There are some scammers out there who pose as law enforcement and request, demand, I guess request is too nice of a term, but demand that you pay in order to incur legal action. Phishing messages, like Officer Marsalek was saying, a lot of times they contain many errors. So look for spelling and grammar mistakes. If you get those messages from companies that you normally interact with, whether it's Amazon or your utility company, maybe the logo looks a little weird, or maybe they don't have your name and it's just a general greeting, or they're misspellings or words missing. Those are all red flags that that's a spammer at work. And again, don't give someone control of your computer. So those are just kind of some reminders that I'm finishing up with. And then I'm not sure if this will work, but we shall see. This is just a short video that's provided by the Federal Trade Commission, and they actually have a number of great resources available. Some of those are up here at the front that you can help yourself to, but I just wanted to share this video if it...
I tested it. If you, here,
Oh, there's a... Oh, awesome.
I tested this earlier.
Oh, great.
It just doesn't work with the clicker.
Oh, perfect.
There we go. Phone slide. And the audio should just be...
Maybe I need to...
Spending time together, exercising, getting together with friends. This time of life means doing more of what we enjoy. Unfortunately, older people sometimes are a target for scams. And people who fall for a scam can lose face, along with money and confidence. That's why it's so important to pass on what you've learned. Your experience can help others. Start a conversation with the people in your life. For example, you can remind your friends and loved ones that if anyone ever asks them to send money, stop. Check it out with someone they trust. Get the real story. Once they get the real story, then they can decide what to do. You know this. You may not have gotten a call or email asking you for money, but chances are you know someone who has. Sharing what you know with those you care about can help stop the scammers in their tracks. Help someone learn to stop fraudulent phone calls, emails, or letters. Pass on what you've learned. And remember, a sure sign of a scammer. If anyone contacts you and asks you to wire money, no matter who they say they are, that's a scam. You know this, so pass it on to a friend. If you spot a scam, please report it to the Federal Trade Commission. The FTC is the nation's consumer protection agency. Our mission is to stop fraud, deception, and unfair business practices and help people recognize them. To report a scam, go online, ftc.gov/complaint, or call the FTC at 1-877-382-4357. Fraud and scams affect millions of people each year, but they don't have to affect someone you know. It's important that everybody understands the cost, financial and emotional. So share your experience. When you get an offer, stop, check it out, get the real story. Decide what to do, then tell a friend or family member about it. Pass it on. /complaint, or call the FTC at 1-877-382-4357. Fraud and scams affect millions of people each year, but they don't have to affect someone you know. It's important that everybody understands the cost, financial and emotional. So share your experience. When you get an offer, stop, check it out, get the real story. Decide what to do, then tell a friend or family member about it. Pass it on.
So that video obviously featured, was a message for senior citizens, but these scammers go after people of all ages and not just seniors, but we encourage people to continue to talk about what they're hearing in the news and the scams that are taking place, and just to kind of keep that at the front of your mind, that there are scammers continually trying to take advantage of people. And each week, I bet every week, we share stories with the local media about different scams that have impacted people, and we ask local reporters, keep sharing these stories, because we want people to be reminded again and again and again some of these things.
Wasn't somebody locally that lost a couple $100,000?
I think it was an Olmsted County. Yeah.
So
Where life savings, people's entire life savings have been, just been wiped away by scammers. Yep, and actually I have it here again. So there's the report fraud.ftc.gov or identitytheft.gov. And if you just even go to the FTC's website, they have so many videos that kind of summarize different types of scams. They have resources available, tip sheets, and as I mentioned before, we have a number of materials at the front here if you're interested. One is kind of more information on those romance scams with the phone number on where to report a scam. We also have something here on the grandchild scam, the IRS, if you've ever gotten a fake call from someone from the IRS demanding money, and then just a general brochure here on how to avoid a scam, kind of summarizing a lot of the information shared today, and another sheet if you want additional information about some of those lottery scams, or like you've won a prize scam, and how those work. So lots of information, more information online if you do go online.
So the FTC, that's the Federal Trade Commission? Is that just .gov where they could go? So is there general information to research? I mean, where would they go just to find general information?
Yep, if you go to ftc.gov, and there's I should have, but yes, you can look, there's a library that has a ton of information, and they have different translations as well, so if that's a need, it's just a great resource, and I always like to direct people to the FTC's website for.
Because we're just touching the tip of the scams that are out there. I mean, really. I mean, there's thousands and thousands of different kinds of scams going on. I mean, for those that Daryl Hildebrandt, he was good about tracking every little active thing going on. I mean, but that's what he did. That's the only thing he did. I mean, it was crime prevention.
And that is another, you touch on a good point. If you do receive an unusual call, and you're maybe not sure if it's a scammer, but it seems like something different, you haven't heard of it before, by all means, give us a call, let us know about it, because we do, even if you haven't been the victim of a crime, I do try to kind of keep track of what I'm hearing in the community, even just anecdotally to see if there are any new trends that are impacting our area. So if you do get a call that's different than some of the scams that I've been describing, by all means, let us know about it so we can.
You recently put a Facebook post out there, right, about scams? A few weeks ago, a month ago, something like that.
Yeah, probably. I don't even remember.
If you don't follow City of Rochester Police Department Facebook page, do so, because there's sometimes a lot of good information on there that gets pushed out, and plus you get to see what your police department's doing too as well. You had a question?
Yeah. So one thing I'm seeing is instead of gift cards being used, crypto being a big item of transmission of funds, and I think people don't really understand how crypto works, but once it's sent, it's gone.
Yes.
And they use that because there's no central authority to monitor it. And then with the advent of the Bitcoin machines here in town, we've seen a big increase in people using that.
Really?
Yeah, are you guys seeing that as well? or is
We
that-
have gotten some calls about some people victimized through,
Do all you guys know what crypto is? Yes, no?
It's a new currency. they
Well,
got.
it's
Yeah.
cryptocurrency. It's basically just electronic money, basically is all it is. So what he's talking about, the big one, Bitcoin, at one point was worth $55,000 for one Bitcoin. So, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it's a decentralized way of sending and receiving money, basically. So, when you get rid of the centralization of it, you also have a lot more responsibility. So the scammers take advantage of that. You know, I think we'll see it more and more as things progress.
What would be a good phone number to call the Rochester Police Department if we notice something that seems kind of out of the ordinary?
yes.
Is there
You can call the non-emergency number, and so that's 5800?
68, they have
60,
that.
okay, you have that. And that's probably the best number, and they'll route you accordingly and first make sure that if you need to speak to an officer, you will be in touch with an officer. If you have been the victim or if you just have some concerns, they'll direct you to me.
Amanda, we might just share a few things from the credit union's perspective too.
Excellent.
I'll just share a personal situation. My father, in his 90s at Charterhouse, received a call that he had prepaid for a Microsoft protection on his computer. He was on his computer all the time. And one of the things that he had done, out of a convenience, was he had linked to the various mutual funds and individual stocks that he had put money into, and his online banking account at a couple facilities. So he had it set up so that would automatically open up. So what happened is, of course, they called, they said, you prepaid for this Microsoft service. We want to check your computer. He gave them access to his computer, and within 10 minutes, they had moved most of the money out of his money market accounts into checking, and were preparing to make a transaction when he called me, because he was upset he couldn't stop the mouse was going crazy.
sure,
And
yeah.
he couldn't stop it. He knew something was wrong at that point, and he called me. I ran over to accounting, and within minutes, that money was just about gone. So
Wow.
It happens very quickly, and you have to be so careful as you think about the convenience of being able to quickly open things and see your financial information. You have to be so careful that you're being safe with it, because it can all be gone. And our family experienced that with him. It was very scary, and we were lucky. We were one of the lucky ones, because we were able to catch it quick, because I was right here at the credit union.
Again, just slow down, and before you click, just take a second thought about it. So, I mean,
So could you have just turned the computer off? Would that have stopped it too?
Well, I think they already had the online, they'd already rerouted his online account.
I'm sure they probably had access to all of his banking information
Yeah, it
already.
turned out they were from Germany, this particular group, but very, very scary. And I would say to any of my team members that are here, that work with this every day, if you guys have any other pointers, Stephanie or Julie or
Yeah.
Becky, anybody?
Yeah, so just some of the major things that we're seeing in the community is person-to-person payment transfer services, Cash App, Zelle, Venmo. These services are great and convenient and wonderful services, but what a lot of people don't understand about them, thank you. Is this good enough? Okay. What a lot of other people don't understand about them is they're like handing cash to a stranger. So let's say you sign on online, you're gonna sell something, somebody wants to pay you with, Venmo or Zelle instead of bringing cash to your door. You send that money, or they ask you to send the money. There's lots of different scams involving this now, setting up business accounts to send money or accept money. Ways that they can get access to having your money sent out versus you actually receiving funds, and then once that money is gone, it's gone. So there's no way to recover it. So, those types of services are really best and intended for
paying your grandma back for buying you a coat, or paying your friend back for buying a cup of coffee. They're not meant to be used for people you don't know or for buying and selling things online. So that would just be a word of caution is when doing those transactions, make sure that you really know who you're doing business with if you're using those types of services.
Would you say one of them is like more secure or safer than what?
It's a really great question. Personally, I'm going to recommend Zelle because Zelle has to have a connection with your financial institution. When it's involved with your financial institution, there's somebody backing you behind you to help protect you. They're going to get you the information to keep you the safest. Companies like Cash App, PayPal, they all have their merits, but unfortunately they're not a financial institution, they're a business. They don't have your best interest at heart, they have theirs. So at least through Zelle, we at the credit union have your back with that. We're going to try to take care of you and educate you on the product that you're using, unlike the other businesses.
Mary, I have a question for you. So if that same scam happened to somebody else, what they should be able to do is call their financial institution the second they realize that there's something going on with their account?
Yes,
Because that's
so
basically how
yeah.
you shut it down, is telling our accounting.
Yeah, the question is, what should you do if that situation happens? And absolutely, shutting down your computer is a good start if they haven't got that far, is what we learned. But then just call the credit union or whatever financial institution or organization you're dealing with on that particular service. Call them immediately.
Mm-hmm.
If you can, go in and change your password. If they haven't taken control yet, you can go in and change your password also.
On a different computer.
Yes, on a different computer, not on the one that's
Different computer,
compromised.
That's right, 'cause if they've taken over access, you'll know it, believe me. You'll see the mouse moving around.
Another important point with passwords is, I know with passwords, all of us are guilty of writing them down, using the same password over and over again. These are tactics that the scammers rely on. They rely on us to do these things because they're predictable. So it's highly recommended to use, if you're going to write your passwords down, use a secure service that has a master password, change that password every 6 months. Don't use things like birthdays, anniversaries, things that you're sharing on social media and with people out in public spaces, because those are going to be easy to guess, and create long password phrases. So something like, Marmaduke is a sloppy dog and his best day is June 3rd. Really long phrases that are nonsensical, but you're going to remember it. So things that are personal but not too personal that you're putting it out in the market space, and long passwords. Don't use the same one across multiple avenues. If you're using it on Facebook, don't use it as your online banking sign-on. If your online banking sign-ons here at the credit union, don't use it at your investment company. Make sure they're different so that if a hacker gets one, it doesn't have access to everything.
And I'll background that because we just changed our policy on our passwords. So we went from having, I think, an 8-character minimum to now, I think our minimum is 25 characters. So,
yes?
Yep, so it's, and
It's
what you
really
said.
easy to screw up your password.
Yeah.
Try to log on.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's, and like she's saying, they said, create a phrase or something, just because people aren't gonna pull that phrase. I mean, they're gonna have to really work at that, I know Officer Remley created something about his retirement because he was done in 6 months or 8 months or something like that when that came out, so then he did something, I retire, and or whatever it was, I don't know. So, but yeah, she's absolutely correct. Try to create a phrase and make it as long as you can.
So in relation to that, do you recommend using a password manager?
There's
Somebody that remembers all these passwords. I don't have a password manager, but I thought about it for a long time.
I mean, I have a vault on my phone that I keep on there, so that has a master password so I can get in there, because literally I'm changing my passwords more than I'm remembering them, because, I mean, if I probably have 20 plus passwords out there. I mean, there's no way, because I have Netflix and, and
I probably have
Amazon,
100.
all that stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
just tons of stuff, And like she said, you don't want to keep them the same, so it's hard to keep them all in track,
The number one password in the United States, who can guess what the number one password is?
Password.
Password. The number one password used is password. But the other thing to avoid is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Don't do key runs, and don't do like across your keyboard. People think they're being so clever just going like E, F, J, like straight across the line. That's not clever. The fraudsters know that too. They just follow the key string. So tips to avoid when creating your password.
I know we're probably wrapping up here soon, but I want to ask a quick question. And maybe somebody from the credit union can speak to this about the fraud unit. The only reason I bring this up, my wife and I have our Mayo Clinic Employees Credit Union Visa card. It got scammed, or not scammed. Well, yeah.
You're right,
Somebody-
was it stolen?
It got hacked.
Yeah.
Yeah, it got hacked in
Identity
July. The fraud unit eventually contacted us, but they called our landline. We have a landline too, in addition to the cell phone. They called the landline and left a message. We were out of town, so we didn't get that for a day or two. We were a little concerned because it seemed like fraud unit was really slow in reacting to it. And what it was is somebody in England had charged soccer tickets for Binghamton soccer or something like that. So that's a tip-off that's coming from out of the country. And we know when we travel and we're gone, we notify the credit union and stuff that we're gonna be gone for 2 weeks or whatever, we're gonna be out of the countries to kind of prevent this. But it would seem like the fraud unit was really slow in notifying us, and then by the time they did, this Binghamton tickets in England had charged us 3 different times, and it was all for soccer tickets. So now we got 3 different transactions, and I'm just kind of wondering why there was such a delay in the fraud unit
So did you,
tipping us off.
did you shut your card off once you seen the
Oh,
first one?
yes, immediately, yeah, once they contacted us, we said, well, yeah, we didn't notify you we weren't out of the country or anything, but we were out of town.
Sure.
And now we've got 3 different transactions where they billed us, and it seemed like they should have contacted us after the very first time. If we live in Minnesota and there's tickets being charged from England, you would think a red flag would have gone up to say,
So there's a couple different ways they could have got your number. Obviously online, you know, if something would have been compromised online if you buy anything online. Otherwise, people can walk up to you with the device that they have, you know, they don't even have to touch you, and they can get your information off your credit card. So I had to replace my credit card, probably 8 months ago, because all of a sudden I looked at my bill just like you, and I had charges from, somebody went to, I don't know, it wasn't Proscara, but it's the other one. Anyways, we went to one of the places down in Florida though. So they were in Florida. I wasn't in Florida. And they bought like $80, like I don't know, it's a whole bunch of food, you know. I'm like, well, that wasn't me. But so there's a couple different ways they get your information. I mean, if there's skimmers out there. I mean, a lot of skimmers you'll see. And if you're walking up to a gas pump, a lot of people make sure they pull on that where you insert your card. I mean, I tap mine because most of them don't have tap things on them, but you just tap it and pay. But if you slide it in there and pull it out, with that skimmer, it gets all your information and goes to the whoever's gathering that information. So
Yeah,
you do.
let me just introduce Bruce.
Yeah.
Bruce didn't know he was on the speaking agenda, but he's a leader of our Visa credit and debit card programs, and he knows all about fraud and scams on cards. So Bruce, do you want to respond to that?
Well, actually, no, it's a very good question. It's always keep up your contact information updated. So your best phone number always should be updated. And our fraud security actually calls the home phone number. They do. They'll call it home phone number, but they will tag it. So we do watch that. We see that something's out there that's out of the norm of your normal spending patterns, and it'll tag it. And then it will actually send out a call or a fraud text alert to see if you actually did this transaction or not. But the call is going to come into your home phone number. So, excuse me, I always say is what's the best phone number, contact phone number for you, and we'll put that in the home phone spot, and we'll also put that as a cell phone spot. But our fraud prevention, so basically they're 24/7. We're not here 24/7. We're here from 9 to 5, and weekends till from 9 to noon. And then after hours a week or holidays, we have call centers, 2 different call centers that actually respond. One in actually Des Moines, Iowa, the other one in Texas. So they do the best they can to reach out, and they're going to feed off of that first phone number, which would be the home phone number. So and always when you're a lot of our members are actually moving or updating addresses and phone numbers and stuff. Keep that current as possible. That helps us. It helps us catch fraud, prevent fraud, and it's just a huge deterrent. And then we can actually go on there and actually see if these are actually legitimate transactions or not. Because we monitor a lot of the transactions coming through and reports the next day to see what's going on out there too. And also tokenization on the back end of it, we see a lot of that too, where they might have your cell phone number and they're trying to load that into an Apple Pay or Google phone of their own. So your card number into their phone number. And we try to catch that way too, so you're not even aware of what they have. And like these wonderful presentation here today about fraud and stuff, it's amazing what they have, what they know, and how sneaky they are. But to answer your question, update that number and just say, this is my number to reach me all the time. So, but it's a great question. And we try to get the word out as much as we can through our communication out there. But we don't reach everyone. So we do what we can.
We're signing up for text alerts.
Text alerts is too, right.
And it sounds like you maybe did have that, but the text alert, if you have signed up for that and you're using
Yep.
one of our cards, you'll get a text and we'll ask you if it's legitimate, right?
Correct. Yes or no question I'll ask you on that.
And Bruce, correct me if I'm wrong, but, whether it's one charge or 3 charges, at the end of the day, if you didn't complete the charge and it's fraudulent, we're gonna take care of you. Is that correct?
Correct.
Bruce?
We will. We'll take care of it. And basically, we're going to see, yeah, this is legitimate fraud, and we're going to give you, the money back or put that transaction, reverse the transaction as much as we can. That process does take a little bit of time because we have to reverse things through, but we do take care of you on that.
On the plus side, Credium is really good about replacing her Credium with a new credit card
Right.
away without having to wait 7 to 10 days to get one in the mail. If they come into the office, they can print a new one. So we had the new card with our new number. The only sad thing is you gotta contact, we had 10 or 12, online
Right.
banks.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Pain in the neck to have to call all of them and say, hey, we got a new credit card number now. That's life.
But yeah, we do replace an instant issue we have here in Rochester, and if we need to, we'll FedEx stuff to you. We'll take care of our members as much as we can. We know it's an inconvenience to lose that debit card. The fraudster knows that too. Once they have that debit card, it's a lot, and it's a lot of stress and anxiety to get that replaced and to go around whoever he had linked into it to relink it all. So, but we work best with you. So. Give us a call.
The card is still swipe, and I'm wondering if you're thinking of going to the tap function?
Well, honestly, we're working on that project right now. We currently are. So stay tuned. Hopefully in the new year, 2023, early in the new year, we're hoping to have that out. And we're well ahead of schedule on that. So it's good news. The tap and go card, if the pay wave, the officer he enjoyed that.
Just a quick thing to kind of talk about. So if your card, if you happen to lose your card and it gets used or anything like that, here in the city of Rochester, we're able to investigate the crime that occurred. Please.
They do a wonderful job, by the way. I've called them many times and worked with them directly.
Please.
Let them out.
I'm going to tell you the information that we need to help try to find this criminal. So if you can contact your institution, find out where your card was used, okay, the time it was used, and the day it was used. So then I would say 90% of the businesses here in town where they get used, there's some type of cameras around. So that's what we go off of. I mean, if there's no way of identifying this individual, if we don't have that information of where we need to go, we can't help you, okay? So date, time, and location, that's what we need. So if you call and report that your card was used fraudulently or you lost your card, some banking institutions want a police report, some don't. So it's just kind of whatever you decide you want to do.
If it's a local, we really encourage a police report. We try to work as closely as we can with the Rochester Police to find and locate that.
And we want to make the criminals responsible too. I mean, so if they did financial transaction card fraud, then we want to charge them with that crime too.
You talked about card skimmers at gas pumps, and I know that like QuickBook recently doesn't let you have to pay pretty much at the pump or at the van.
Right.
So would you say don't
mean,
Not all of them have tap to pay either, I don't think.
no,
Our cards
no,
don't.
a lot of the gas stations, there's a few that have tap to pay, there's some don't. You know, I guess you could always give a tug on it. I mean, you can kind of pull, if you go online and look at some photos, I mean, you can tell that they're different, but there's a lot of good looking trial skimmers out there. So you pull on it, more likely it's gonna pull out. But yeah, you just have to be careful. There's no way of really 100% knowing that it's a skimmer.
So maybe the safest way is to go inside and pay, because it's less likely that it's gonna be more in the store.
Yep.
As far as I know, for those on the gas stations, so they switched them around. There was a few out there, even up until last year, that didn't have the chip readers. They were skimmed for the make stripe, and that's the issue. The make stripe is wide open.
Okay, yep.
But the chip reading, as far as I know, currently, no froster is actually be able to duplicate the chip on that.
There should be.
Right. Right. As long as you lock it in and you can hear it locked in, it tells you chip reading, you're safe to go.
Is there, I mean, I'm assuming there's still card companies out there that still have just the make stripe, or
There,
are most of them?
well, they should be all converted to chip, but there was a few gas stations in town that actually just had still the make stripe readers.
Sure.
And the frosters knew it, and I could tell you which ones they were in town. I knew exactly where they're heading. But they've switched though, so they've actually gotten better.
There are regulations in place that
there
require
is, right.
businesses to switch over. Due to some of the complications, though, some types of businesses were allotted additional time, ATMs, gas stations, things like that, so they were a little bit slower to change over.
Are all the financial institutions issuing chip rate cards now?
Correct.
They are.
Correct, yep. Everything's gone to chip, and then pay wave is the next,
Sure.
big push. And so we're getting better and better and better with the technology and stuff.
And so are the fraudsters.
And they are too, yeah.
So one thing he's got a question back there, go ahead.
Well, we have one question that came in online, so I want to make sure that we answer that for them. What suggestions do you have around identity theft? Do they need to file a police report, and what do you recommend around monitoring for it?
Want me to take that one?
Go ahead, sure.
Okay. So when it comes to identity theft, I recommend on a regular basis, there is a great website, annualcreditreport.com. They offer free credit reports from each bureau once a year. It's not going to give you your credit score, but it'll tell you what's going on your credit report. So I recommend pulling one of each of the bureaus about, every 3 to 4 months. Check in what's going on with TransUnion. Wait a little bit, then what's going on with Equifax, kind of towards the end of the year. Check the third one, Experian, what's going on there. Gives you a big picture of what's going on with your credit, kind of an ongoing basis. As far as reporting, I recommend the identitytheft.gov also when you need to report identity theft. There's also a huge list of resources I know at the ftc.gov as far as where to report and protect yourself with identity theft.
And we do still, I mean, if there is an identity theft, I mean, we will take your report. Sometimes there's really not a lot that we're able to do. Just an example, usually around tax time, we take tons of tax fraud cases. So everybody getting your income tax refund before you get it. So there's a lot of that going on, especially during COVID, we did a
Yeah, there's a lot.
So, like I said, identity theft is hard. I mean, especially most of it probably happens overseas or somewhere else, and there's really no follow-up that we can do as an agency. So we can document it, I mean, for whatever assistance you need. If your financial institution needs something or documentation that, yep, your identity was stolen or whatever, I mean, we surely can do that. But as far as, getting to the end result of prosecuting somebody, it's very few and far between. Anything to add, Amanda?
No, I was just gonna say too, with, if your account if there was a security breach at an organization that you are part of, a lot of times you'll receive written notification of that, and sometimes free monitoring is offered. That's a service that's often extended to people when there has been a security breach, and that's another option that you might want to take advantage of.
And there's some services out there. I'm not that familiar with the one. Is it LifeLock or something? Or
LifeLock is one, yeah. Yep.
That's the only one I really know. But there's other services out there. obviously there's a fee for all that credit monitoring and that type of stuff too, so. All right, one last thing I gotta add. If you guys are involved in any organizations that would like a scam presentation, we do them, me and Amanda have done them at some church organizations and different, down at the Eagles and different places. So if there's any interest for any type of presentation like that, please reach out. We'd be happy to do a presentation for you guys somewhere else with your group or whatever it may be, so. I don't have anything else. Thanks for being a great audience. Thanks for all the questions. You got anything to add, Amanda?
I don't, thank you.
So, it's been a pleasure. Great space, Mayo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.